The little girl was standing in the driveway when he pulled up. She couldn't have been more than 4 years old. Maybe 5, wearing a yellow raincoat, 2 sizes too big, rubber boots with frogs on them, holding a juice box like it was the most important thing in the world. She looked up at the car with no fear whatsoever, just pure open curiosity. And something about the way her chin tilted, the exact angle of it, made Archer Delvane's chest stop working for a full 3 seconds. He sat in the car, engine still running, hands on the wheel. The little girl stared at him, he stared back. She had dark eyes, his mother's eyes, his grandmother's eyes, the kind of eyes that skipped generations and showed up without warning in faces that had no business carrying them. Archer turned off the engine. He had driven 4 hours from Boston. He had rehearsed what he would say approximately 600 times on the highway, and had forgotten every single word the moment that child looked at him. The front door of the house opened before he could get out of the car. Lydia Weston stood on the porch with her arms crossed and an expression on her face that he recognized. That careful blankness she wore when she was feeling too much and had decided not to let any of it show. She looked older. Not worse. Just real, in a way that photographs couldn't capture. She had cut her hair. She was wearing a blue sweater he didn't recognize. There was a coffee mug in her hand and she gripped it like an anchor. The little girl turned around, looked at her mother, then looked back at Archer. "Mama," she said, "there's a man." Lydia's jaw tightened. "I see him, baby," she said it quietly. "The way you talk when you're trying very hard not to say everything else that's in your head." Archer got out of the car. He had met Lydia Weston 11 years ago at a conference in Chicago. The kind of stiff, fluorescent-lit corporate event he normally hated, where everyone stood around holding glasses of wine and pretending the conversation was better than it was. She had been arguing with a presenter, loudly, calmly, with citations. He had fallen a little bit in love with her on the spot, before he even knew her name. They had been together for 6 years, engaged for 2 of them. And then his company, Delvane Capital, had gone into crisis, the kind of slow-motion implosion that starts with 1 bad quarter and ends with your board of directors looking at you like you're a problem they need to solve. He had thrown himself into it. Completely. The way he did everything. He told himself Lydia understood, that she knew who he was, that she had signed up for this version of him when she said yes. He was wrong about that. The fight started small. Missed dinners, canceled weekends, vacations that became conference calls, and then one night she had sat across from him at their kitchen table, their good table, the one they'd picked out together at a market in Vermont. And she had said, very quietly, that she didn't recognize him anymore, that she had been watching him disappear for 2 years, and she was tired of pretending she wasn't. He had told her she was being dramatic. He still couldn't believe he had said that. She asked him to leave 3 weeks later. He did. He told himself it was temporary. He told himself he would fix the company first, then fix them. He had been so certain that was the right order of operations, so certain that everything could be scheduled and prioritized and addressed in sequence. He left in October. He did not call her in November, or December, or January. By the time he surfaced from the wreckage of Delvane Capital's restructuring, board satisfied, investors calmed, companies stabilized, it was the following spring, and he had let so many months go by without contact that reaching out felt impossible. The silence had calcified into something he didn't know how to break. So he didn't. He had not spoken to Lydia Weston in 4 years and 7 months. He had not known until 3 weeks ago that she had been pregnant when he left. His college roommate, Perry Oakes, had told him. Not gently. Perry had never done anything gently in his life. "You have a kid," Perry had said over the phone with the directness of a man who had decided that gentleness was for people with more time. "A daughter. She's 4. Lydia never told you because you never called, and I think she figured you'd made your choice pretty clearly." Archer had sat in his office for 2 hours after that call, completely still. His assistant had knocked 3 times and he hadn't answered. He thought about the way Lydia had looked at him the night she asked him to leave. Not angry. Just done. The specific exhaustion of someone who had been holding on to something heavy for a long time and had finally decided to set it down. He thought about a 4-year-old girl in some house he'd never seen, growing up without a father, Not because her father was dead, but because her father had been too busy restructuring a company to pick up the phone. He had called Lydia the next morning. She had not answered. Or the morning after that. On the third day, she answered, and the silence before she spoke was so long and so complicated that he could hear everything in it, every month he hadn't called, every explanation he didn't have, every apology that was going to sound ridiculous no matter how he said it. "What do you want, Archer?" she had said. Not angry. That was the thing that undid him. Just tired. "I want to meet her," he had said. "If that's okay. I want to." He stopped. Started over. "I know I don't have the right to ask for anything. I know that. But I'm asking anyway." Another long silence. "Her name is Juniper," Lydia had said finally. "Everyone calls her Junie. She's in preschool on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Come on a Saturday, she'll be home. But Archer." Her voice dropped half a register. "If you come, you stay. You don't get to meet her and disappear again. She's 4 years old. She doesn't understand why people leave. I won't let her learn that lesson from you." He had said yes. He had meant it. And he had driven 4 hours with absolutely no idea what to do with his hands. "You can come in," Lydia said, from the porch. She didn't sound warm. She didn't sound cold either. She sounded like a woman who had made a decision and was going to see it through regardless of how she felt about it. Juniper was already walking toward him across the driveway with the juice box still in her hand, completely unconcerned about the rain that had started to fall in light, diagonal streaks. She stopped about 3 feet away and looked up at him with those dark, impossible eyes. "You have a tie," she said. Archer looked down at his tie. He had not thought about the tie. He had dressed for a meeting that didn't exist, out of pure nervous habit. "I do," he said. "It has dots." "It does." She considered this. "I like dots," she said, in the tone of someone delivering a verdict. Archer crouched down to her level. This close, she smelled like apple juice and rain. She had a small scar on her chin, barely visible, the kind kids got from falling. He thought about not being there when she fell. The thought nearly leveled him. "I'm Archer," he said. "That's a funny name," Junie said. "I know. Like bow and arrow?" "Exactly like that." She seemed satisfied. She held out her juice box. "You want some? It's grape." He looked at the juice box. He looked at this child who had his grandmother's eyes and her mother's chin, and absolutely no awareness of the fact that he was holding himself together by about 3 threads. "Sure," he said. "I'd love some." Lydia, from the porch. "Junie, let him come inside first." The house was small, not what he would have expected, not what he would have chosen if he'd been there to have a choice. A craftsman bungalow on a quiet street in Westfield, Massachusetts, with mismatched furniture and children's drawings covering the refrigerator, and a shelf in the living room that was half books, half Junie's stuffed animals, with no clear boundary between the two. It looked like a home, the real kind, the kind that takes years to accumulate. He stood in the living room feeling like exactly what he was, a stranger. Lydia got Junie settled at the kitchen table with a coloring book, moving through it with the efficiency of someone who had done bedtime and snack time and errand time alone for years, who had developed a system and stuck to it. Then she came back to the living room and stood on the opposite side of it with her arms still crossed and her coffee mug still in her hand, though by now the coffee must have been cold. "She doesn't know," Lydia said. "That you're her father. I haven't told her." He nodded. He had figured. "I was waiting," Lydia continued, "until I knew whether you were going to be a real presence in her life or," as she paused, chose the word carefully, "a visitor." The word carried everything she didn't say alongside it. "I'm not here to visit," he said. "You say that now." "Lydia, you left," she said. Not loudly. "You left and you didn't call. For months. I kept thinking." She stopped, pressed her lips together. "It doesn't matter what I thought. The point is, she's 4 and she has no context for any of this. And I need to know that if I tell her who you are, you're not going to be someone she has to unlearn." He stood with that for a moment. "I restructured the company," he said finally. "Delvane Capital is stable. It has been for 3 years. I have a full executive team now. I have a COO who runs day-to-day operations. I've been building something that can function without me being there every single minute, because I finally understood what happens when I make myself irreplaceable. I should have understood that 6 years ago." He stopped. "I know that doesn't fix anything. I'm not saying it does. I'm saying I'm different, and I can't prove that to you today, but I'd like the chance to prove it over time. Lydia looked at him for a long moment. The expression on her face was not soft. But it wasn't closed either. She's going to ask questions, she said. I know, hard ones, I know. She already asks why she doesn't have a daddy like some of her friends at school. I've been telling her that some families look different and that's okay. And it is okay. I believe that. But she's going to want answers that are more specific than that, eventually. Then I'll answer them, he said. Whatever she wants to know. I'll answer honestly. Lydia set her coffee mug down on the bookshelf. She looked at the kitchen, where Junie was singing to herself over the coloring book, some nonsense song that didn't have real words, just a wandering melody she was making up as she went. You really didn't know, Lydia said, not a question exactly. More like something she was trying to confirm for herself. No, he said. I didn't know. And I know that doesn't fully excuse not calling, because, he exhaled, because if I had called, I would have known. The not calling is its own thing I have to answer for. I don't have a good reason I was ashamed. I kept thinking I'd call when I had something to show for the time, when the company was fixed. When I could say, here, look, it was worth it, it wasn't just. He stopped. There's no version of that sentence that doesn't sound like an excuse. Lydia picked up her mug again. No, she said, there isn't. They stood in the complicated quiet of that for a moment. From the kitchen, Mama, I need the green one. Lydia went to find the green crayon. He stayed for 3 hours. It was not the visit he had rehearsed on the highway. There was no grand moment of revelation, no scene where everything became clear and forgiven. Junie showed him her coloring book, which was full of horses, and explained each horse in detail, including their names and personalities and complicated relationships with each other. She told him that the brown one was mean, but only because she was sad. She told him that the white one had a secret. What kind of secret? Archer asked. Junie looked at him with complete seriousness. I'm not allowed to tell, she said. It's the horse's secret. Right, he said. Of course. He helped her color a fence around the horses. He was not good at it. He kept going outside the lines, and she corrected him patiently, which was somehow the most humbling experience he'd had in years. He was the CEO of a company that managed $12 billion in assets. He could not, apparently, color inside a fence. It's okay, Junie told him. You just need to practice. That's true, he said. I do. Lydia watched from the kitchen doorway. Not with warmth exactly, but with something. Attention, maybe. The careful attention of a woman who was gathering information and hadn't decided yet what to do with it. Around 2 o'clock, Junie fell asleep on the couch without any warning, simply tipping sideways mid-sentence, like a small person who had run out of batteries. Lydia carried her to her room with the ease of someone who had done it 1,000 times. Archer stood in the living room listening to the quiet and looking at the drawings on the refrigerator. One of them in crayon showed a house and 2 stick figures of different heights, one large, one small. Under the large one, in careful preschool handwriting that was still learning its letters, it said, Ma. Ma. Under the small one, it said, Me. Just the 2 of them. The house and the 2 of them. He stood there longer than he should have. When Lydia came back, she found him still looking at the drawing. She didn't say anything for a moment. She asks sometimes, Lydia said quietly. Where her dad is, I tell her he's somewhere out in the world, and that he loves her even though he can't be here right now. I didn't want her to feel. She stopped. Thank you, he said. For that. Lydia shook her head slightly. Don't thank me. I did it for her, not for you. I know, he said. I know that. He turned from the refrigerator. I want to do this right, he said. Whatever right looks like. I know I don't get to decide the pace of it. That's yours to set. I know I come on whatever terms you're comfortable with. I'm not here to blow up your life. I'm here because she exists and I didn't know and now I do, and I can't unknow it. He paused. I don't want to unknow it. Lydia looked at him for a long time. She had the same face he remembered, the same careful, perceptive intelligence behind the eyes, the same way of listening like she was taking notes. She had always been able to see through him. It had been one of the things he loved about her and one of the things that had terrified him. Every other weekend, she said finally, to start, supervised. Which means either here or somewhere I've agreed to. You don't take her anywhere new without telling me first. You don't cancel. If something comes up with work. She stopped, said it plainly. Nothing comes up with work, Archer. That's the deal. If you take this on, you take it on completely. I understand. I'm serious. So am I. She studied him. He held still under it, the way you hold still when someone is deciding something important. Every other weekend, she said again. We'll see how it goes. He told her on the fourth visit. Not by plan. He had been carefully, almost frantically not planning it, waiting for Lydia to indicate when she thought the time was right. But Junie had cornered him on the fourth Saturday, the two of them sitting on the back porch eating animal crackers while Lydia made lunch inside. And Junie had looked at him with those impossibly familiar eyes and said, out of nowhere, Archer, are you my dad? He had not breathed for a moment. Why do you ask that? He said carefully. Junie ate an elephant-shaped cracker. Thought about it. Because you come to see me, she said. Not Mama. The other people who come see Mama. But you play with me. She considered this logic, and you look like me a little. His chest did that thing again. The thing where it stopped. You think so? He said. Your eyes are like mine, she said simply. Grandma says eyes are like a family thing. She looked at him. Are you my family? He thought about lying. He thought about deflecting, redirecting, saying something vague and safe that would let him escape this moment and report back to Lydia and let them handle it on their own timetable. Then he thought about being 4 years old and having that question in your chest and not getting a straight answer. Yeah, he said. I'm your dad. I'm sorry, it took me so long to come find you. That was my mistake, not yours. Okay? Junie looked at him for a moment. Then she looked at her animal crackers. Then she looked back at him. Okay, she said. Like it was a thing she had already half known and was just waiting for someone to confirm. Then, can you open this one? It stuck. She handed him a bag of crackers. He opened it. His hands were shaking slightly. Junie didn't notice, or if she noticed, she didn't mention it. She took the bag and offered him the first cracker, which was a bear. I like the bears, she said, but you can have one. He took the bear. Thank you, Junie. You're welcome. She swung her feet, which didn't quite reach the ground. Daddy's a funny word, she said, trying it out. Daddy. She said it again, experimenting with the sound of it. Is that what I call you? If you want, he said. Or Archer, whatever feels right. She thought about it. Ate another cracker. Daddy Archer, she decided. Both. Lydia found out that afternoon. Found out what he'd said, that it had happened unplanned, on the back porch over animal crackers. He told her immediately. He didn't try to hide it or soften it. She was quiet for a long time. Long enough that he started preparing for something catastrophic. Then she said, What did she say? She said she already kind of figured, he said. She said my eyes look like hers. Lydia made a sound that was almost a laugh. Not quite. She told me last month that you look like her uncle, she said. I didn't know what to do with that. They stood in the kitchen. Junie was in the backyard, self-narrating an elaborate game involving her rain boots and a stick. Through the window they could hear her giving orders to an invisible crew. I'm sorry I didn't wait, he said. I know that wasn't my call. Lydia watched Junie through the glass. She's okay, she said finally. She seemed okay? More than okay, he said. She wanted to know if she should call me Daddy or Archer. And you said? I said whatever feels right. She decided on Daddy Archer. This time Lydia did laugh. Short and involuntary, like something surprised it out of her. She pressed her hand to her mouth for a second. That's very her, she said. Yeah, he said. I'm getting that. She lowered her hand. The laugh faded, but something remained in her face that hadn't been there before. Something slightly less armored. She looked at him with an expression that was complicated enough that he didn't try to name it. You need to understand, she said, that I am nowhere close to forgiving you for any of it, for leaving the way you left, for not calling, for all of it. I'm not there. I might not get there. I need you to know that before any of this means something it shouldn't mean yet. I know, he said. I don't want you to have expectations. I don't, he said. And then, because it was true and because he had promised himself he would say true things, but I want you to know that I'm not doing this because I'm trying to get back to where we were. I understand that might be over. I'm doing this because she's my daughter, and I want to be here for her. And, he paused, and because being here, in this house, Watching the two of you together, I can see that you built something real without me, and it's better than what we had before, and that's a thing I need to sit with." Lydia looked at him. The expression was unreadable in the way that only very complicated feelings can be unreadable. "Every other weekend," she said. "Every other weekend," he agreed. "And you call, even when it's not your weekend. You call her." "I'll call her," he said. "I'll call every day if you'll let me." "We'll start with twice a week," she said, "and we'll see." Outside, Junie had recruited her stick into some important position in the invisible crew and was congratulating it enthusiastically. 6 months later, it was a Tuesday. Not his weekend, just a random Tuesday in November, when his phone rang at 7:30 in the morning, and it was Junie's voice on the other end, slightly breathless, clearly having grabbed the phone without full adult supervision. "Daddy Archer," she said, "I lost a tooth. He was in a board meeting. Or he had been. 30 seconds ago, he had walked out into the hallway without entirely planning to." "You did?" he said. "The bottom one," she said. "It was wiggly for a really, really long time, and then at breakfast it just came out. There was blood, but just a little bit." "That's a big deal, Junie." "I know," she said with complete self-awareness. "Mama says the tooth fairy comes tonight. What do you think you'll get?" She considered. "Probably $1. Mama says she's not fancy." He laughed. A real laugh, the kind that doesn't have any performance in it. "Sounds about right. Are you at work?" "I was," he said. "It's okay. Mama says I shouldn't call when you're at work, but I really wanted to tell you." "I'm really glad you called," he said. "Always call me for the important stuff." "A tooth is important," she said seriously. "Absolutely it is." He could hear Lydia in the background, saying Junie's name in that specific parental tone that means you did the thing I specifically said not to do and I'm choosing to handle it with only moderate exasperation. "Junie," he said, "go show your mom the tooth. I'll talk to her for a second." A rustling, a handoff. Lydia's voice. "She grabbed my phone off the counter before I could. She told me about the tooth," he said. A pause. He could hear the smile in it, even though she was trying not to let it through. "It came out at breakfast. She screamed loud enough to wake the neighbors. She sounds pretty proud of herself. She's been showing everyone she can find." The mailman got a full presentation. He leaned against the hallway wall. Inside the conference room, he could see his COO handling something on the whiteboard. It was going fine. The company was going fine. There were people in there who were very good at their jobs, and he had learned, slowly, expensively, that he didn't have to be in every room for the right things to happen. "Tell her I'll call tonight," he said. "After the tooth fairy visit. I want to hear what she left." Lydia was quiet for a moment. "Okay," she said. Then, more quietly, "She talks about you, between weekends. She mentions you. She tells her friends at preschool that her daddy Archer has a tie with dots." He did not say anything for a moment. "Couldn't quite, thank you for telling me that," he said. "She loves you," Lydia said. Simply. Not as a gift, just as a fact being reported. It happened fast, kids are like that. I don't completely understand it, but there it is. "Lydia," he said. "Don't," she said, not unkindly. "Just a boundary, clean and clear. I wasn't going to say anything you'd need to stop me from saying," he said. "I was just going to say thank you for letting me in. I know it cost you something. I know you're still. I know where we are, but thank you." She was quiet for a moment. "Don't screw it up," she said finally. And then, before he could answer, "She's waving the tooth at me. I have to go." The call ended. He stood in the hallway for a moment with the phone in his hand, listening to the muffled sounds of his board meeting continuing without him, and thought about a little girl in a yellow raincoat standing in a driveway in the rain, holding a juice box, tilting her chin up at a stranger with her great-grandmother's eyes. He thought about all the years he had believed that the most important thing he would ever build was a company. He went back into the meeting. He did his job. At 5:30, he left on time. Something he had been practicing deliberately for 6 months, the way you practice any skill you let go unused for too long. He drove to his apartment. He called Junie at 7 after the tooth fairy had come and gone. She had left $2 and a note in tiny handwriting that said, "Good job brushing." "She knows my name," Junie reported. "The tooth fairy knows my name, Daddy Archer." "Of course she does," he said. "You're famous." "I know." Junie said, completely sincerely, and he laughed until his eyes watered. Somewhere in Westfield, on the other end of the phone, he heard Lydia laughing too. Not at him, not at the absurdity of it. Just along with him, the way you laugh at the things a 4-year-old says when they are exactly, perfectly themselves. It was not forgiveness. It was not a second chance. It was something smaller than that and, in its smallness, more real than anything he'd had in years. He would take it. He would take it, and he would not push it into something it wasn't ready to be. He would show up on his weekends and call on his Tuesdays and Thursdays and be in the room, reliably, without condition, until reliability was simply what he was. And maybe that was enough to build something on. Maybe that was exactly enough.